Welcome, everybody.
Hey, everybody. Bill and Cheryl here. Welcome to season 3 of Fork Mike Knife.
Easy for you to say.
And with Keaton Simons. Anything you want to say about Keaton?
Well, first of all, the best hugs in the world. I mean, I would give anything if he was here today or we were in LA with him, but Keaton just has a very dynamic personality, uber talented, and I just love watching him play. He enjoys it as much as we do watching him.
Yeah, the first word that comes to mind for me is adorable.
Yeah,
Whether you see him on stage or you see him at a party or back in the green room or something, you can't see Keaton without smiling. So let me go over there. Let me bring Keaton into the frame here.
Perfect. I hope you guys are doing well. Happy New Year. Really happy to have everybody on. Hey
guys, what's
How
up?
Are you?
I'm wonderful. You are adorable as well. I adore you.
Mr. Keaton Simons.
I love you. Also, I'm in Nashville, by the way.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
I know
that's
I'm
right.
like Mr. LA, but yeah.
Yes.
Mr. LA.
Yes. Well, that's the last time we saw you. We had ramen
Right.
downtown.
And it was so good. That ramen was incredible.
Yeah, thanks for the recommendation. It was unbelievable.
I thought it was your recommendation. I'm like,
well, I think it was our son-in-law, Johnny.
That's right.
He was like, have you heard of this place? And I said, well, let me ask Keaton. And you were like, oh, yeah, we got to go.
I had heard some good things.
It was yummy.
Of course. Well, yeah. Well, should we talk about what I'm going to make today?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
For you out there?
We'll do the same.
Okay, lovely. Well, I am going to make one of my favorite things to eat in the world. I first discovered this. I call it a calzone, but when I first had it, it was called a Sicilian pizza. It's beautiful. Like, you guys know what a calzone is. Beautiful pocket with, in this case, tomato sauce, fresh tomato sauce, sauteed spinach with red onion and a little bit of raisins in there. And then put it all, and I cook the whole thing in a cast iron pan, make the dough by hand, and I'm going to run you through the whole thing.
How come the cast iron pan? Have you always done it that way, or you figured out that was the best way to do it?
I've tried a couple of different ways. I have a great pizza stone that I love to use and always use for pizza. Yeah. But there's something about this calzone it really is like a pie. I mean, I don't even do the fold over kind. You'll see, I basically make 2 pizzas and put one on top of the other and seal it around and poke some holes, and it just is awesome. But it's the best thing to like share, and it brings me right back to that place. There was this restaurant, this Sicilian restaurant called Trinacria in Olympia, Washington, where I went to college. And it was they had a lot of great food there. Great Thai food and all the stuff you expect from like a college town. But this is like one of the legit best Italian restaurants I've ever eaten at in my life in the world. And that was one of the first things I had. My parents have eaten there a million times. We used to go at least like once a week or once every couple of weeks to there and get the Sicilian pizza. And so I figured out how to make it myself.
Well, there you go. That's awesome. Well, we're going to complement your calzone with a starter of homemade ricotta and turn that into a little bit of a bruschetta.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I love it. That's beautiful. Yeah, because you're doing the roasted tomatoes, and mine.
Yes.
I like making the fresh tomatoes. I like getting these Campari tomatoes, the little ones for the sauce.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. That's
awesome.
Amazing. I love bruschetta. So here, I wanted to start by cutting this onion, because this is a thing that a lot of people don't know how to do properly. And what you want to do is you start with the whole onion. You cut it right through the middle here, boom, where the root is. And we're only using half in this case. I cut this off. I have here a compost that's small and fits right on the on the top here. I feel like Rachel Ray. I'm forgetting how to speak English. So I can easily discard of all the compostable stuff and just pop it right here in this thing.
Hey, Keaton, I've got a great recommendation for you.
Please.
We have you full screen because we want everybody to see what you're doing up close. We have started taking all of the scraps, doing a sort of a compost bowl, if you will, but any vegetable scraps, we're putting them in a Ziploc bag or other reusable type of freezer safe, and
Yeah.
then turning that into vegetable stock.
That's one of my favorite things to do. Also, I love that. I've done it. I've done that a lot myself, and it's the best way to get vegetable stock and the best way to use all of your vegetables because there's so much stuff left over. You know,
Yes.
I don't like throwing stuff
Good
away.
stuff.
And this is, but yes, exactly. I'm trying to get something going in the backyard and use the compost for that and that kind of thing. But I absolutely agree with you and recommend it completely. So in this case, I'm cutting this onion this way. I'm just going to cut it like that. But if you want to cut like, diced, then you cut it this way, cut it that way, and then you go ahead and dice. But I just want these like long, beautiful things. So I'm just going to cut it all right now. Here we go. Boom. That should be good. And you can get it all the way to the end here.
I will say,
Boom,
Keaton, that
yeah.
is some knife.
You like this thing? This is that crazy Serbian knife.
Yeah, I
love
think
this. It
somebody
makes it
has
easy.
knife envy.
It makes it very easy, and you can also look at that. You get like a plate and a knife and everything all together.
Whoa, yeah.
So so the onions are ready. Now I'm gonna put the stuff in the Vitamix for the sauce. Because here's how I like to do it. I like to obliterate these ingredients so that they're tiny little particles. My idea behind it is that the pan will be really hot and every little tiny particle is going to get flavor on it. So the smaller the particles, the more opportunity for flavor. Fresh tomatoes, fresh basil, fresh garlic. There's 3 cloves of garlic that I smashed and peeled. And now I'm going to season it. I like dried oregano. I have used fresh oregano, and it's awesome, especially for like on pizza when it's done. Throw a little bit of fresh basil, fresh oregano on it. It has a really different flavor, but the deep like oregano flavor that we're used to, you get from dried oregano, I find. Also, crushed red pepper, and usually I just use black pepper, but all they had at the store was this tri-pepper combo thing, so we're gonna go with that. Little pinch salt, bang. Put the top on now. Oh, excuse me, almost forgot. A little bit of olive oil, which not only is great for flavor, but it helps for the sauce not to stick to the sides of the Vitamix, and I like to get every bit of flavor on it. Here, I use this plate for the onions.
I love it.
Beautiful. So now I'm just going to swing around and start sauteing this spinach.
Hey, Keaton, I think your mom said to be careful not to cut yourself.
Well, yes. My mom, if she were in this situation, she would be cutting herself very much, I'm sure. But I'm not. I'm good. I got to keep these fingers.
Yes.
Very important.
You got to keep the fingers behind the knuckle and the whole deal. Okay, so I'm just heating up the pan. I want it to get hot, a little bit hot first. This is a killer pan that's like extremely non-stick, so you don't really need oil, but I'm gonna grab my olive oil again just for flavor. And I don't want the olive oil to burn, so I'm gonna put it in kind of either right before or right after I put in these ingredients, because I want them to be direct against the pan. That's when you get that really good roasted dark flavor. You get the brown flavor, and if you don't, maybe not to let it go too far so it gets burned. But here, this should be a little bit hot. I'm gonna put the onions in first. Here we go. I'll turn it up so it's really hot. And once this starts doing its thing, then I'll put a little bit of olive oil on it. And then I'm going to season it a little bit later, because when you put the salt on it, it tends to bring the moisture out. And I want this to get good pan time before there's any liquid in this pan. So while these are getting heated up right here, in fact, I can just start blending up the sauce on the Vitamix, which is as simple as turning it on and pushing a button.
Hey, Keaton, we just got one last year.
You did? Oh, aren't they great?
Yeah.
It's hard because it's so expensive, but it's so worth it.
Yes,
it's such a good investment.
But I think the Ninja is a good alternative that's more, wallet friendly. Sorry, it's gonna be loud.
Any other comment?
Okay, so like I said, I want to obliterate these tomatoes and all this stuff in there because I really want maximum surface area to pan ratio. These onions are starting to smell incredibly good. And see, right now it doesn't even need any oil. And I feel like it would just kind of cause more steam to start happening. And I don't want to steam these. I want these onions to have good roasting flavor and then to be sauteed.
Keaton, can I ask you a question from the audience?
Absolutely, of course.
Lindsay said she has a bullet blender. Do you think that that would work for what you're doing today?
I do. Absolutely. First of all, it
Awesome.
doesn't have to be totally obliterated. You can use any blender you want. It's just that this is like probably one of the highest powered ones on the market.
Yeah.
I like to say you can blend a rock in that thing.
Right, exactly. Oh yeah. So look, these are now starting to get a little bit brown.
Oh yeah.
And that's
Caramelized. We'll go with
and
caramelized.
caramelized, exactly. Caramelized. So I'm now actually going to add the spinach, and tons of spinach cooks down to nothing because it's mostly water. So the water just steams out, and you're left with a very small amount of spinach, but with a lot of very good flavor.
Any garlic or salt and pepper at this point?
There's so much. I've got a lot of garlic in the sauce, so I'm not. And the onions are a great flavor here, so I like to keep that like that. At this point, I'm gonna put in a tiny bit of olive oil and toss it around for a second, and then salt. Now, I probably should have salted the onions on their own for flavor layering purposes, but since there's only 2 ingredients in here right now, I think it'll be okay.
Well, you can always add salt. You can't take it out.
Precise. That's what I was going to say. With these ingredients, you can always add more, but you cannot take it away.
Do you have a preference on type of salt?
I like to try a lot of different kinds of salt. I love the big chunky salt. I've got some here for like finishing on top of the calzone. They're big fleur de sel.
Flakes.
That's beautiful. So now this, and also I don't want to cook this for too long. I'm going to bring down the heat now because the pan, these good pans, the cast iron is the same way. They retain heat and they heat really evenly. So even if you have a starting, you can start off high and then turn it down and it'll stay in a good zone. At least that's been my experience. Okay, so we got this stuff in here. I actually want to accentuate the acidity and some of the sourness in all of this stuff with just a tiny bit of lemon. Just a little squeeze of fresh lemon on there. And I don't want it to get too wet because, again, I don't want it to steam. And we're going to put it inside of a calzone, so I don't want it to be all wet in there.
Have we talked yet about the towel over your shoulder?
Oh, yes. I answered the door with this thing on and I don't even realize it.
Very, very TV chef of you.
Hey, I'm trying to do my best. I'm trying to be pro over here. So this is coming out really beautiful. You see the spinach is still nice and green and vibrant. And I love that. It's going to cook again anyway, So right now we just want it to have, just wake up the flavors, let them marry together a little bit. I'm going to throw in the raisins here at the end and turn off the heat. The rest of this cooking I can do with just the residual heat on the stove. As soon as I'm done with this, I'm going to put it on a plate and get it ready to make the calzone. And then I'm going to blitz the rest of the sauce, and I'm going to deglaze this pan with the sauce. So it has this nice flavor on the bottom that's accumulated, and I don't want any of that to go to waste. So we're going to pick it up
we
with
refer to that
tomato
as
sauce.
The fond in the bottom of the pan.
Yes.
Good flavor there.
Yes, the beautifulness. Ann Burrell says, brown food tastes good. She's right.
Burnt is not good, but brown
food is not right. But yeah, and this is everything I'm making is vegetarian. This is not vegan because it's got the cheese in it. Although we do have the vegetarian Parmesan, which most Parmesan cheese that you find is not vegetarian because they use animal enzymes and they cure it inside of the stomach and things like that. But you can find great vegetarian Parmesan, and the ice cream that I'm making for dessert, which I didn't even mention.
Yeah,
is
we forgot to mention that.
Strawberry balsamic ice cream with coconut milk, and that is completely vegan. And I found it like making it in. I just got a very affordable Cuisinart ice cream maker, 2-quart thing, and making these alternative milk ice creams have been so great in there. It's like way creamier than the store-bought stuff that you get.
Yeah.
It's very ice creamy. Okay, I'm gonna put this on a plate. I'm gonna get this started, and then throw to you guys for a second.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
Is
sounds
that a good idea? And I'll get
sounds
set
great.
up for dough.
Let me
For that dough.
let me bring Cheryl into the screen. You ready for us? Take over.
I am ready for you guys to take over. I'm gonna, while I'm here, I'm just gonna mute so I'm not making a ton of noise, but I'm turning the pan back on and I'm gonna put the sauce on.
All right, sounds good.
All right.
So we talked about doing this bruschetta, and one of the things that we really like is fresh ricotta. When I go to the store, if I'm going to store buy it, I swear the container is this big. You cannot get a small container of ricotta. And what we like to do is make our own. And it may sound a little daunting, but it is one of the most simple things in the world. In 25 minutes, you will have fresh ricotta. Because it takes about 25 to 30 minutes to drain once you make it, we did it a little bit ahead of time. So we're going to take you from the post heating and curdling piece into the actual draining and then making it into an herbed ricotta. So I have a stainless steel pan out. I recommend if you have ceramic, that works, like Creuset or one of those brands. I like stainless steel. You don't want to use an aluminum pan because you're basically mixing whole milk and heavy whipping cream and then bringing that to a boil, adding vinegar, turning the heat off. And to a point that Keaton made earlier, a pan retains its heat and it will keep cooking. Make sure that you move your pan off the element because there's still a great deal of heat happening under there. Once you do that, bringing that to the boil and adding the vinegar, you basically just let it sit for a few minutes. And then what we do is we have a fine mesh strainer and we have some cheesecloth, and you basically pour that in there. And what's happening is the milk, the whey, the solids are all separating, and you can see where it's been draining. We actually had to pour some off during the process. But what you've got now is a really creamy ricotta, as you can see. And the flavor is wonderful. There's no seasoning whatsoever in here. It is literally just the curdled milk, if you will. So what we're going to do is take this, put it into a bowl. Billy's going to show you how to make a garlic paste. And we're going to add some herbs and some salt, just a little bit. And then we're going to turn that into bruschetta. All right, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Oh. I'm pretty sure we've done this before, but on previous episodes. Oh, and one thing is the vegan Parmesan cheese. We did post a recipe for that in a previous episode. If you didn't see it and you're interested in vegan Parmesan cheese, just hit us up with a question. We'll be happy to send it to you. It's super easy to make and super flavorful. So for a garlic paste, basically I have 2 cloves of garlic and I've chopped them up. So everybody knows how to chop up some garlic. And, you know, it really doesn't matter how fine they're chopped. But now what I'm going to do is put it in a pile and I'm going to take some salt. We use almost exclusively kosher salt. So this is just some straight kosher salt. I'm going to put that on top. And now what we're going to start doing is at the edge here, take our knife, I'm using a chef's knife, and put it on its side and just drag it across.
Basically what the salt does is it's abrasive and it helps break down the fibers of the garlic. So as you continue this dragging process, it takes a couple of turns, but then what you're doing is you're getting a paste versus just chopped garlic. And when you mix that into sauces or you mix it into what we're doing today with the ricotta, it allows you to blend it in much more evenly within whatever you're adding it to. And that way you don't get necessarily big chunks of garlic per bite. So you can see this is really breaking down. Takes a lot of moisture, which kind of helps it make that pasty kind of application.
Now, I don't know, Cheryl, if you want to put all of this into your ricotta, but there we go. I think you can see.
See how thin that gets?
Turns it into a nice garlic paste. And you don't have to buy a garlic paste at the store because it's expensive. And it goes bad, so why not just make it fresh?
Yep. I'd like to put about half of that, Bill, into the bowl.
Okay.
And since you've got garlic on your hands, you can do it.
All right.
All right.
So we got half of that in the bowl. And then all of this?
All of that.
Okay. I'm going to put this back over there.
There we go. You can just kind of squeeze it.
Let me grab the spoon. Yeah.
May I interject real quick? I
Yes,
love
of
the
course.
pasting of the garlic. I use the same technique with the salt, the abrasive. I was just gonna say, garlic is an extremely versatile ingredient, and a lot of people have it, prepare it wrong, eat it that way, and dislike it as a result. It can become acrid and bitter really easily if you cook it too much or directly, or it gets cooked too long. If you roast it slowly, it tastes sweet like candy. If you paste it up like that, it has a much different type of effect on the food that you're eating.
Yep, absolutely. No, it's one of our favorite things to do. I love garlic, I really do, but too much of it, it's just too much for me. So I find if Billy makes the paste out of it, it's just easier for me. All right, so we did pre-chop some herbs, and what we decided to put in today was a bit of Italian flat leaf parsley and some fresh thyme. So that goes in. And that's basically the herbed ricotta. Now, because there is salt that he made the paste with the garlic with, I'm not adding more salt. And Keaton, I love a good finishing salt, so we're actually going to finish the top of the tomato application on the bruschetta with a nice flaky salt.
So that's the ricotta, which is going to go on our bruschetta. Why don't we, Keaton, turn it over to you if you want to
Sure.
do your dough.
Then we'll
You
come
got
back
it.
and tell you about how we do the bread.
Yes. All right. So that dough, let's make that dough. We are going to start with flour. This is 500 grams of unbleached all-purpose flour. It's really important that it's unbleached. It's a different ingredient. Bleached flour is not the same thing, and it's not going to turn out the way this turns out. I've tried it. I've been like, what happened to me? I now have 10 grams of yeast, which I'm going to put on one side of this bowl. I have also 10 grams of salt, kosher salt, which I'm going to put on this side of the bowl, because salt and yeast don't like to wrestle, but they like to swim together. They'll go swimming together, but they don't like to Greco-Roman style. Okay, so this is 370 milliliters of water. This water is room temperature. It can be any temperature provided it's not too hot. The cooler it is, the longer it'll take for your dough to prove, because the yeast, as it activates, it'll activate slower because it's cooler, just like us. We move slower when we're cold too. So I'm just going to pour this in just like so, just these three ingredients. Going to kind of get it in the middle and then bring it out, almost like I'm doing a pour over coffee. And now
Hey, Keaton?
I'm going to immediately get my hands. Yeah, buddy.
We had a question about why are you using grams?
Please. Why am I doing in grams? That's I weigh it in grams. That's just what I have a scale that's I got a scale with the grams. It's when you deal with metric, you end up having much more even numbered things for your ingredients. So if you can, and a lot of baking is done that way anyway. So I'm just getting my hand in this thing. I'm trying to kind of keep another hand free. But I'm going to work it around until it comes together and gets a little bit less sticky. But it's a wet dough, so it's supposed to be a little bit sticky. And once it does come together like this, I'm just going to tip it out of the bowl. I just need a little bit of flour to put on the board. Awesome. A little bit of flour here for this board. And I'm going to finish this process by bringing it together on the board in the thing. And it's okay to be messy. It will come off of your hands. Of course, you want to make sure that you have washed your hands very thoroughly and so on. So what you're going to do is you're now going to knead this dough until it gets smooth. And then you'll bring it into a ball and put it back into this bowl. You wipe it out so there's no schmutz in there. Put it into this bowl, cover it with plastic wrap, and then you just wait for it to prove, and you'll see what ends up happening to it. Now, I'm not going to take the time that it takes to bring this all the way to the place that it's supposed to be, but you can find your way with kneading dough. For me, is really fun. Plus, I have this whole idea of like, I'm putting energy into this food and then I'm eating it and then it's giving me that energy back. There's something very cool and nerdy about that I love. So let's pretend this is very smooth at this point, which it is not. I'm going to bring it into a ball. Boom. I'm going to drop it in here and say, bah. I put the wrap on top of it. Bada bing, bada boom. Let me wash off my hands and I'll show you the finished product. This beautiful Nashville Hollywood magic that we got on here.
Keaton, I don't know if you know, Cheryl owned a bakery for 10 years, so she's
you must be cringing right now. I hope you have. Well, that's amazing and so impressive. My God, baking is such a cool thing. It's just so cool.
It is.
How long did you own this bakery?
How long did I own the bakery?
Well,
I owned it for about 10 years.
Oh my
Believe it
God.
or not, Keaton, our number one product were bagels.
Yeah. Oh, I absolutely believe that bagels were number one product.
So it was a
Bagels
lot of
are
fun.
good.
We did all sorts of things. Plus, we had a deli with it, so it was a lot of fun. Hard work,
That's
but
awesome.
a lot of fun.
That's so awesome. Okay, so here we have the dough that was made yesterday, and it's proven it's spongy and light. Put a little bit of olive oil on the top so that the wrap doesn't stick to it. And then I'm actually going to cut this in half in the bowl, and I'm going to use I don't know, is this enough for one or for two? This will make 2 full calzone. So I'm going to take this out.
Who were you asking that question to? Look at
my lovely assistant. This is movie magic. We have.
Hey, Mindy Huff wants to know if David
Yes.
Bournet is coming over once you're done cooking.
Bournet was invited over to actually be my camera operator. But Bournet is celebrating his mom's birthday in Louisiana. So happy birthday to David Bournet's mom. I love
Another
Bournet and I love
human
the
being.
whole family. Oh my God, incredible. So here, this, I just cut it in half, and all I'm going to do is let it open up, let it stretch out. I don't need to knead it anymore. I want it to have a lot of life in it, and I don't want to extinguish that beautiful life energy. So here, I'm going to bring my cast iron pan over here, and I'm going to show y'all how I put this in the pan. Meanwhile, the sauce is finished. I've turned off the heat. I cooked it until it was bubbling and there were solid pieces of tomato sauce coming out of the bubbling, and it wasn't just steam and water. So I knew that it was dry enough. There wasn't going to be some soggy thing inside of this calzone. So this dough feels really good. This dough feels really, okay. So I'm bringing this all the way to the edges here, right? And then just letting it stretch out for a sec. I'm going to sauce the bottom lightly, just like you would a pizza, where you put that in there and move it around in a circle from the center out, concentrically like that. And that just gives me a nice little layer that and then I could put the cheese on top, and then we don't have any real breaks in the dough underneath there. So here,
And the key I found, Keaton, is not too much sauce.
Absolutely, you don't want to over sauce the pud, as it were. So I've just cut some flat slices of mozzarella and this veggie Parmesan. I'm just laying them on here evenly, but haphazardly. I will now put the spinach mixture with a different fork on top and lay it on here and get that nice and evenly spread out too. I might even put a little bit more sauce on there because I kept it very light on the inside. I'm also making sure to leave some space around the outside, because what's so cool about this is it's got this lovely, delicious stuff in the middle, but then it's almost has like a baguette surrounding it, and it's great. It's got everything you want. Okay, so a little bit more sauce on top because I like sauce. I'm a saucy dude.
Oh, he's saucy, all right.
You guys are saucy. I'm a saucy individual. You know. Also, I forgot to mention, I put a bay leaf into this sauce, and I must say, I always put a bay leaf into my sauces, my tomato sauce, because it just does something magical and special. It's just a leaf off of a tree. So cool.
We have a bay leaf tree, so we grow our own bay leaves.
Well, it's hard to bay leaf, but I do bay leaf.
To bay leaf. It started about 1 inch tall, and now it's about 5 inches tall after 3 years. It grows very slow, but
unbayleafable. I'm gonna go take some of your bay leaves.
There you go.
Anytime. Come on over.
Oh, yeah, I'm gonna come grab some bay leaves from you. So here's the top crust. I'm just stretching it out a little bit so that I can easily lay it over the top. Let it take its time, try to get it out there so that it really stretches over the top. And then I'm gonna stretch it out all the way to the edges and be very meticulous about the way I seal these edges, because I'm gonna poke holes in the top, and ideally all of the steam and pressure that is developed in there as a result of that steam is gonna come out of those holes and not gonna bust out of the bottom or the sides at some other weak point. So I just go around the edges, and I just like, it's a wet dough, so it kind of all forms back into one. And you'll see when I'm done with this that it really is this one gap. Oh yeah, it's so good. I should say pies are a family thing now too. My sister owns an incredible bake shop called Pie Bake Shop, P-I, like the number.
Like the number.
But she makes the most amazing pies, and this is right in the same kind of zone as that. She does sweet and savory, and I would just call this a savory pie.
Keaton, we had a technical question come in twice now.
Please, what is it?
Is that an 8 or a 10-inch cast iron pan?
Is this an 8 or 10-inch cast iron pan? I am going to have to look that up on my Amazon past ordering list.
I'm going to go with a 10-inch pan.
10-inch?
Looking at it, it
Go
looks
for
like
it.
a 10-inch pan.
Let's see. It's my face. How
that in the
big is my
record.
face and head? Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to use this fork that I used to put this on. Poke some holes in the middle. Boom, 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 boom. Lots. Look at this thing is alive, kicking. So cool. I've also preheated the oven to 450 degrees Fahrenheit. So I've poked the crap out of this. Now I'm going to grab my olive oil one more time, give it a tiny little thing on top here. And then when it does come out, I'm going to do the same finishing salt technique that you guys love. But here's the calzone ready to go in the oven. I'm going to pop it in right now. Do you guys want to cut to something of you at the moment? Okay,
Absolutely.
great. Here, I'll pop this in.
Most people know how to toast bread. There's no doubt about it. In this household, we have learned the hard way that you better keep your eye on it. So in doing the toast that's going to be the basis for the bruschetta, we took a baguette and sliced it about 3/4 of an inch thick. You can do that based on preference. I like to make it a little bit thicker because in the middle, it'll stay a little bit moist and soft while you've got those nice crunchy outsides. I brushed each side of the bread with just a light amount of olive oil. And I'm just going to put it in the broiler, and I'm going to keep my eye on it like a hawk. And I'm going to keep turning them until I get the color that I really prefer, which is kind of a light golden brown. Hopefully I will not burn them today, but it is live TV, right? While you guys were listening to Keaton, I did add an extra bit of salt to the ricotta. I did a little taste test. Salt needs time to melt. So when we did the first round where the salt was with the garlic, it got incorporated after a few minutes, and then that's the time to take a test, see if you need more, and then add a little bit more. So that's what I did. So I feel like the basis of our bruschetta is good to go. We have the ricotta. We did roast our tomatoes a little bit.
Let's take a look at those.
Yeah.
Okay, they look okay.
Yeah, they're fine. We did roast the tomatoes earlier today. I'm going to let Billy take you over there while I keep my eye on the bread. We used cherry tomatoes, cut them in half, added a little bit of salt and pepper, olive oil, and then threw them in a 400-degree oven until they roasted. Here we go. So you can see we're starting to get that nice golden color. I'm going to take them out and flip them over because our brand of stove likes to sing to us if we leave the door open too long. So it's just easier than making a lot of noise today. And typically it'll take 1 or 2 turns to get these all done. I wish you could smell this. Keaton, I bet I can smell in this bread what I could be smelling of what's going on in that cast iron pan.
Oh, I feel like I could smell you. It smells so good.
And you brushed both sides with olive oil?
I did,
okay.
Yep. Some people like to salt before it goes in. I prefer to wait. Depending on what you're putting on your toast, whatever it is that you're making with it, you don't want to oversalt. So we just try to build those layers of flavor by what we're putting on the topping of this toast. So we're going to give this another minute or so. It's starting to brown up.
Why don't we do this while the toast is finishing up? Keaton, we've got a video of yours that we could show. So I've got a couple to choose from, and you and I didn't talk about this beforehand. My thought was the cover song might be a good one to play right now.
Yeah.
What can you tell us about it? It's a snippet. It's not the whole song.
It is not the whole song.
What can you tell us about this song?
Well, so I got asked to do a thing as an extension of the Rock by the Sea and Right by the Sea. And it was amazing. Ben Jackson, drummer extraordinaire, producer extraordinaire, also synth wizard. I didn't even realize this until recently, that he's a synth maniac.
Wow.
And recorded this thing, Brian Facchino, Hammer, got the whole all-stars on it. I went and recorded a vocal, did a little quick vid of me doing it. And this is a snippet that's kind of like the money moment of the song that everybody waits for the whole time. So you won't be disappointed.
You know what he's talking about as soon as it's...
You'll love it.
All
so
right.
Watch that, and then when we come back, I can show you guys how we do the ice cream.
Awesome.
Well, you know what? When we come back, we'll put the bruschetta together real quick, and then we'll go to the ice cream.
Love
All
it.
right. Awesome. Here we go.
Well, I remember, don't worry. How could I ever forget? It's the first time, the last time we ever met. But I know the reason why you keep your silence up. But you don't fool me. Well, the hurt doesn't show, the pain still grows. It's no stranger to you.
It just ends.
Well, I'm sorry. I didn't realize that. It was a
No worries.
well, but you can check that out on Spotify and YouTube and all that good stuff. So you can listen to the entire song, including the lengthy intro.
Awesome.
Cool.
Yeah.
So we're just going to take a minute and pull this bruschetta together, and then we'll
Beautiful.
send it back to you for ice cream.
Fantastico.
All right.
Yeah, watch.
For our gluten-free friends, there are gluten-free baguettes on the market, which I've used before when I'm doing a dinner that has both gluten and non-gluten-free attendees. So feel free to do the exact same thing for your gluten-free friends. So I'm just taking the toast. As you can see, it came out beautifully golden brown. It's still soft in the middle, crunchy on the sides. And I've zhuzhed it up with a little bit of the cheese. And then these are those lovely tomatoes. You might have to go over top.
I'm going to go this way.
Cameraman. I'm going to tell you, when you roast a tomato, or any vegetable, I swear, the amount of intensity of flavor just is incredible. You can eat these like candy. They're just that good on their own. And I love to get a little bit of char on them.
I mean, there's nothing against buying sun-dried tomatoes already made, but it's so easy just to take some cherry tomatoes, put them in the oven for 35 minutes with olive oil, salt, and pepper. And, you know, the flavor is fresh.
So we talked about layering flavors. This is typically what we'll do. I'm just adding a couple of snippets of this really chunky salt so that as you go through taking bites at different times, or if you like Bill, one big bite, you can catch that little burst of saltiness. And then,
what kind of salt were you using there, Cheryl?
this is a sea salt actually, but it's super chunky. You know, get them in here so they can kind of see what I'm talking about. Yep. I mean, they're almost like cubes. We're going to make sure that we have some toppings here. We did our own balsamic drizzle. It basically turns into syrup. If you just take a good balsamic, it doesn't have to be super expensive. Put it in a pan, bring it up to a simmer, and just let it simmer until it coats the back of a spoon, and then let it cool down, and it will thicken up to a beautiful syrup. So we like to take just a little bit of that, give that a drizzle.
This happens to be a fig-infused balsamic vinegar. We have a lot of figs where we live.
Well, yeah, absolutely. We're on the Outer Banks of North Carolina, if you're familiar with this area. Believe it or not, and we didn't know this till we moved here, it's like one of the fig capitals of North Carolina. There's a little island a little south of us called Ocracoke Island, and they literally have a fig festival. And so there were folks down there that bottled this balsamic, and it was infused with the figs from the island. I mean, it really just is intense. It's very thick, very rich. Okay, a couple more things and we are done with this. I want to do a quick chiffonade of basil. And this time of year, we do not have basil coming out of our garden. For those of you that may have been on one of our other shows to be able to see literally how much we were getting out of the garden, it was insane. Little bit of basil. And then I really like to brighten things like this up as much as possible. So take a lemon, nice microplane, add just a little bit of zest to it. Oops. And then serve those up with a nice glass of red wine. You should be good to go. Keaton, we're going back to you.
Wow, that looks so good. I was watching that. Man, that looks so good. You guys, we're on such the same culinary wavelength. I love it. figs. I love figs, and I love fig-infused balsamic vinegar. I'm a balsamic vinegar loon. I inherited this from my mom. She loves sour, acidic things, and so do I. Orange juice, fresh orange juice, tomatoes, vinegar. Like, I love all that stuff. I found this really good stuff, the Colavida. It's aged, and it's not crazy expensive. It doesn't cost $50 for a little bottle like this, and it's really nice. You'll see that it's thick. It's already really viscous just from the aging process, which is amazing. So I'm going to show you guys how to do this strawberry balsamic ice cream. I'm going to start by adding these fresh strawberries, which I macerated in just a little bit of sugar. Okay, and macerating just means that you put it in the sugar and let the juices come out and all that good stuff. But only a tiny bit of sugar, because most of this sweetening for this is going to come from these dates. The medjool dates, I took the pits out. I find that when they have the pits in, they stay more moist and they're just better. So I put 2 dates in there. That's pretty much the only sweetening. I'm putting all of this good fresh strawberries in there. That's going to be really yummy. Then I'm going to put a can, which is 13.5 fluid ounces, 400 milliliters of coconut milk. Boom. And I like to get everything out. Use a spatula and get all this stuff out. And when I'm doing it myself, I can get pretty obsessive about it too. I'm now going to add just a little splash of this baking vanilla, probably about a teaspoon or something around there, but just a little splash. When I can get fresh vanilla bean, I always use that, and it's great, and you can usually get it. This is the balsamic. I'm going to pour a little, and you'll see how thick it is as it pours out. See,
we started buying vanilla paste, Keaton.
Ooh, I need to get some of that too, because I don't think they'll get like bricks of it, right? Or something like that.
It's a liquid form. I mean, it's a paste, but it kind of seals itself. So like when you squeeze some of it out, it kind of seals up, and then you have a lid on it, but really bold flavor.
That's awesome. Yes, I'm gonna check that out for sure. So I'm just gonna put a little pinch of salt in here too, because salt helps to balance flavors out. It makes sweet things more sweet without being cloyingly sweet. It makes all of the flavors have a better balance with each other. This is it. This is in the Vitamix. I'm gonna blend this up. And honestly, I don't know that I even need to show you guys this process, of this part of the process, because really there's a whole, unless you have this device, it's kind of pointless. You put this frozen thing in here, you put the top on. After this is all blended, you turn it on, make sure it's been frozen in the freezer overnight, and then you slowly pour the mixture on top. And when you're done, it looks like this. Boom. And let me grab a spoon. I'm like, boom. I was trying not to do emerald. I guess this thing is bam, but I'm doing boom. But this ice cream is so good. And even though it's coconut milk, it's so creamy and like, and the freshness of the strawberries and the tartness that it brings out, is brought out by the balsamic vinegar. I love this stuff. So super good. Nice, huh, guys? And then look at this calzone is almost ready. I'm gonna put the camera down to calzone height. Here. Can you guys see in there? Oh no,
yeah.
Hold on, I don't have it yet. Here. Yeah, there we go.
Looks amazing.
Look at that. It's rising. Get all that inside of there is just so much goodness. And
so we've got one more thing for you, Keaton. We
Please,
thought
go for it.
Your ice cream needed a little something a little crunchy, something to go with it. So I asked Cheryl. At first she said no, but then I talked her into it. If she could make a little rosemary shortbread to go, theoretically it should go on the side of your bowl, but you're in Nashville, we're in North Carolina, so that's not going to happen. But just imagine we're going to make some rosemary shortbread to go with your ice cream. Over to you, Cheryl.
All right.
That sounds so good.
This is like the most simple shortbread ever. It's basically a cup of milk, 2/3 cup of sugar. can you see the vanilla in there? This is honey, and I put that vanilla paste in it. I don't know if you can see.
Yeah,
I can see.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
crazy. It is just full of these vanilla seeds. So it's just honey, some of the vanilla paste. You can use extract. You don't have to use the paste. And we're going to mix that up. The thing with shortbread is you're not going to overmix. At this point, you just really want to get things creamy. It only takes about a minute. The trick here, leave the butter out for several hours. Let it just really get super soft.
So right now we just have the butter, the vanilla, honey.
Vanilla,
Okay.
and the sugar.
Gotcha.
All right, you see how that comes together? It's nice and smooth. All right, at this point, there is a little bit of salt in here and 2 cups of flour. You're going to add that in, and you're going to add in 2 tablespoons of chopped fresh rosemary.
Doesn't have to be fresh, but I mean, it's.
I prefer it
Yeah.
fresh. The only reason I kind of argue with you on that point is dried rosemary feels like sticks, and it doesn't have the opportunity in baking to reconstitute, to get that nice malleable flavor and feel in your mouth. All right, so you only want to mix it just until it gets incorporated. Anything with baking is don't overwork that dough. Keaton, you could probably chime in on not overworking your dough for your pizza and your calzones.
Absolutely, yeah. You have to know your dough. With so few ingredients, it's the variables. There's only a few variables, so you have to get everything right. The balance of ingredients, the amounts of each, the amount of time that you need it, the way that you do it, the temperatures, all those kinds of things, how long you prove, they all become really important.
Yeah, they do. And you know what? I don't think that I asked you during your dough prep, are you using dry or fresh yeast?
I am using dried yeast.
Good.
Using the Fleischmann's yeast just because it's easy and foolproof, you know.
Well, it's also better to store. I mean, fresh yeast, it has a shelf life.
Yeah, but ideally, I like to use fresh stuff too. I really love fresh rosemary. I love that you guys are using herbs in this too. When I make this ice cream, usually I make a crunchy element. I make a brittle from cashews, almonds, and pistachio.
Oh,
Ooh.
wow.
And it's a really good comment, but having the herbs, I want to, I've done like a watermelon balsamic, fresh basil, like frozen thing, like a whatever it's called.
An ice.
And that was really good, like an ice. Yeah, it was so delicious. But I always like to find those contrary flavors. This calzone is a perfect example. Having raisins and spinach inside of a calzone is like it was the 90s. People weren't hardly ready for that at the time. But now we're eating balsamic ice cream today with a rosemary cookie, and I love it.
That's awesome. So really this is done. You want to just get it to where things are just incorporated. Again, you don't want to overmix. And because we're going to press this into shape, you can just put it in your pan. I'm using an 8-inch just cake pan, glass. You can use whatever you want that works for you. You could use a tart pan where the bottom comes out, if that's something you want to use, round. It really doesn't matter. So the trick now is to just make sure you form it. And if you give me just a second, I want to get a little bit of flour from my fingers. You just kind of work your way around. You're really wanting to make sure that it's as even thickness all the way around as possible. You can see those pieces of rosemary coming through. I like to do a rough chop because I'm definitely one that likes to taste the herbs when I have it in my sweet or savory components of baking. One of the things that I make sure I do, and that's to punch down those edges. You want them to be as clean as possible. and it keeps it from breaking on you when you go to cut it. All right, that's about it. The one
guys, I just,
yeah.
Sorry, go on.
No.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I just pulled the calzone out of the oven. You finish up, and I'm gonna bring this around and cut it open.
All right, cool. Almost done here, and I can turn it back to you. One thing I do recommend, and you can do this any way you want to for the size you want, just give it a little score. Just helps you define perhaps where you want to have your cutting pieces. So if you want them bigger, smaller, whatever, you can do that. I did put parchment paper in here. It just helps lift things out. The other thing I did was just a little glistening of turbinado sugar. It just gives a little crunch. And Keaton, for the sake of time, there you go.
Beautiful.
Through the magic of television.
Look at this. I'm salt baying my calzone too right now. Salt bay. That dodo.
Wow, that looks crazy good.
All right, here, let me turn it around and take it out of this thing, cut it open so you can see what it looks like.
Yes,
Please.
All right. So it didn't stay together totally perfectly, but honestly, sometimes I prefer that because then you get this yummy grilled stuff on the cheese here. Boom. I'm going to use this because it'll still be pretty hot. Extremely hot, actually. Oh, yeah. And there you have the calzone.
Love it.
Oh, yeah. Just kind of like that. And you got that yummy cheese ripping out of there. So good. And it's way too hot to pick up and eat right now. But you see, because of the cast iron, the bottom is nice and crusty. It's never soggy on the bottom. You got a great crispiness in the crust. And there you go. This is the calzone.
Can you flip it? Yeah. That's incredible. Do you usually serve like a salad or something?
Sometimes I'll do a salad, but part of what I love about this is it's so self-contained. You know what I mean?
Oh, wow.
It's got the bread, it's got the vegetables in there, it has a little bit of sweetness, it's creamy and cheesy and gooey. It's got a lot of stuff going for it. But absolutely, I'll put I'll take some fresh arugula and put lemon and olive oil and salt and pepper and toss it together and put that on anything, basically. It's an enhancement to anything. So I would definitely recommend something like that.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, Keaton, this has been so much fun. Cheers
so much fun.
To you, my friend.
Mm-hmm.
We've pulled out the wine.
Yeah.
I wish I could have a bite of that.
Me too.
I want to eat your food too.
Yeah.
So obviously it's been a strange year. I'm assuming you should have been on tour with Brett Young and on your own tour.
So much.
What have you been doing? Is there a chance you've been in the studio working on your stuff?
Well, I've been doing a ton of stuff. I got so
Do
much.
tell.
I scored that movie with Noah Needleman and Dennis Dugan, and that came out like a month ago, and that's so exciting. And that was just one of the coolest things I've ever done, and I really hope to continue to do a lot of that stuff in the future. And even though we canceled more shows or postponed more shows than I need to mention, we've still done some really cool stuff, and everyone's enthusiasm to focus on positivity, try to stay productive through these times.
Yes.
Everyone in our group, we've all just tried to maximize this as much as we can. We know how hard it is. We know how much people are suffering. The least we can do is do the best we can so that we can be strong and stay strong through all this. So I've been creating a ton of music all over. This just, runs the whole gamut. And a lot of cooking, which has been so great. We've done a couple of really cool shows with Brett. I've done some really fun live streamed stuff. I just recently, I want to mention, hold on, I'll be right back. I love coffee, And my dear friend Ignacio started this company called Troubadour,
Oh, wow.
coffee company out of Costa Rica. And it's become my favorite coffee in the world. So I'll make sure I'll post a link
Yes, please.
that you guys can do. Click and get this coffee. It is so incredible. And I know it's made with love. It's as close to me having a coffee company as anybody. You guys would love Ignacio. But yes, I've found that there's, I can find, you don't ever have to be bored. The truth is,
No.
you could
No.
do
People
something.
have gotten
You could figure
very
something
creative.
out. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, thank you again so much for doing this
Of
with us.
course.
Thank you to
Mwah.
everybody for tuning in. We all love Keaton, and now we got to see a whole new side of you.
So I'm going to, if you can grab the camera.
Yeah.
I'm going to put up Keaton's Venmo. Obviously, all of our artist friends haven't been working for the most part this year. So anything you can do to chip in, it'll pay for more calzones. It'll pay for studio time, all that good stuff. So please chip in. We're going to close things out with another video. It's a promo video. It has little snippets of lots of amazing Keaton Simons songs.
Yeah.
So until we meet again, love you, man.
Love you.
Mwah, I love you guys so much. I can't wait to see you soon.
Please come here.
Of course, I will. Come on, it's the beach. I want to be there.
Bye.
Here we go, get back home is back to life. 1, 2, 3, go after the months of sacrifice. Where did they go? Take time to stop and feel alive. What do we know? I know we're feeling when it's right. 1, 2, 3, go. And all I want is to sleep in your blankets. You know I'm going wild with the sound of impatience. The sound of impatience. I'm going wild. They keep tearing up the landscape. They keep putting up their new gates. And they keep all the greenest grass camped out on this overpass, out on the highway. Are you going my way to the Crane City?